Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Okay, so here's something I've said on this channel a million times. Here we go again.
Here we go again.
You know, the MAGA movement is stuck in this endless loop of trying to reform the party, replacing leaders, primarying Republican senators and congressmen. You know, let's call it cycling through leadership, always hoping that the next guy is gonna be better. Trust me, bro, I'm different. Seems to be what all these politicians are always running on, but each and every single time it seems like it always comes to the same damn thing. Right back to frickin' square one. Another Mitch McConnell, another McCarthy clone, just in a different suit. It's actually crazy just how hard it is to achieve real reform and real change in Washington. You know, you'd think at this point, after Trump's landslide red wave victory, after the culture has shifted so tremendously, that finally Republican leadership would get on board, or at least realize the direction that the party's heading in. But of course, that's not what's happening at all. No, of course not. They're still fighting for their ulterior motives. They seem to be fighting for somebody else that isn't you. And this time, Speaker Johnson is the one that disappoints. Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson has once again showed his true colors, and I can only describe this as an utter betrayal. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so I tried giving this guy the benefit of the doubt initially. I was very skeptical of replacing Kevin McCarthy with Mike Johnson, but as time was going by, it felt more and more as if there was no other choice. And then, of course, Trump joined in. So we went from skepticism to, let's call it hopeful optimism. Hope that it would just work out and that maybe Mike Johnson would, feel forced in a way to actually lead well and present real conservative legislation to the floor. The MAGA base tried to believe in him, but I'd say that belief is over. He proved today that he is just another typical backstabbing fake Republican. I mean, it's over. It's done. That's strike two. It's the second time he does this. And in politics, in my view, you aren't deserving of a third strike. It's over. This guy showed his true colors. And it's almost unbelievable the level of betrayal this man is engaging in right now. We all know that Trump won the popular vote, and going into the next administration, there's a clear mandate from the American voter. They want to cut wasteful government spending. And everybody knows this, and you would think that Republicans would know best. But a little over a month after the Trump win, here we go again. Republicans decide that they're going to jam through a pork-filled government spending bill right ahead of Christmas with the threat of government shutdowns looming. There's no excusing this, no matter what Speaker Johnson says.
We don't have a choice. We have to fund those. We have to fund FEMA. We have to fund our farmers.
Right. And
Exactly.
Mr. Speaker, it's not just so you've got a bunch of Republicans who are angry at you. They don't like this. And just in a couple of weeks, you're going to stand once again to run for Speaker of the House. And you don't need a bunch of Democrats mad at you. But and this is breaking news you do not know. You know who also does not like this? Elon Musk, the world's richest man, just tweeted, this bill should not pass. The only way you're going to be able to pass it now, Mr. Speaker, is with Democrats. If you could, what's your message to Elon Musk?
Well, I was communicating with Elon last night. Elon and Vivek and I are on a text chain together. And I was explaining to them the background of this. And Vivek and I talked last night about almost midnight. And he said, look, I get it. He said, we understand you're in an impossible position. Everybody knows that. Remember, guys, we still have just a razor-thin margin of Republicans. So any bill has to have Democrat votes. They understand the situation. They said, it's not directed to you, Mr. Speaker, but we don't like the spending. I said, guess what, fellas? I don't either. We got to get this done because here's the key. By doing this, we are clearing the decks and we are setting up for Trump to come in roaring back with the America First agenda. That's what we're going to run with gusto beginning January 3rd when we start the new Congress, when Republicans, again, are in control. And all of our fiscal conservative friends, I'm one of them, will be able to finally do the things that we've been wanting to do for the last couple of years. Right now, Democrats still control the pens, and that's the problem. So we got to get this thing done so we don't have the shutdown, so we get the short-term funding measure, and we get to March where we can put our fingerprints on the spending. That's when the big changes start, and we can't wait to get there.
Right. He's pretending as if it's necessary, as if his hand's been forced. Oh, we have no other choice. And Elon doesn't know what he's talking about. We have to avoid the government shutdown. But he's full of it. In fact, I'd say even beyond being full of it, he's straight up lying. He is the one using the threat of a Christmas shutdown to force this 1,500-page bill through. And he's doing it despite literally promising that he would not do it, or that it would never happen.
The leader just noted, we have broken the Christmas omni.
And I have no intention of going back to that terrible tradition. So there won't be a Christmas omnibus. As somebody asked me in the hallway a little while ago, will there be many buses? We don't want any buses. We're not going to do any buses, okay? We'll deal with that in the lame duck, and I'm going to I'm going to urge the Senate to do their job.
We're talking a total betrayal of the mandate. And some of the pork in this bill is just, shocking. You know, Speaker Johnson's acting as if he agrees with Elon Musk and Vivek that we need to reduce spending. Oh, he's a small government Republican, blah, blah. But in this case, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are out of line and he has no other choice. That's what he's claiming. And now we just got to get this little bill through so we can survive going into the Trump mandate. It's total BS, little bill. He describes it as just a small little bill. This is another wasteful post-COVID level spending bill with all kinds of pork BS. Republican Congresswoman Victoria Spartz, I think, described what's going on here perfectly accurately.
Listen, we are divided in government, but we don't have to be ruled by Democrats. Speaker Johnson didn't even talk to moderate Republicans, not just to conservatives. He usually doesn't even care to hear to us. You know, that's unfortunate. He just made a deal, with Democrats, put a bunch of slush funds, what they wanted, put little things that maybe he can try to push some Republicans to vote and try to sell it as a victory, which is really another, Christmas present to Chuck Schumer. And that's what was expected by Republicans. And he's been dishonest in this. And I think at some point, enough is enough. And if we don't start governing the country, it's on calamity course. So I hope next Congress will grow the backbone and start dealing with the swamp, because fiscally the country is really in huge trouble.
It's just a bill with a bunch of slush funds baked in. What it seems like is happening here is Speaker Johnson is teaming with Democrats in an effort to push this bill through for his own benefit, rather than pushing the clear voted on by the people mandate. And this bill, it does a couple things that are just crazy. Firstly, like bringing back funding for the Global Engagement Center. Yeah, these guys.
There's another word for master narratives. It's called history. Basically, every country creates their own narrative story. And my old job at the State Department was what people used to joke as the chief propagandist job. We haven't talked about propaganda. Propaganda, I'm not against propaganda. Every country does it, and they have to do it to their own population. And I don't necessarily think it's that awful. And this idea of a news cartel, I was editor of Time in 2012, during that election. And I remember, you're competing against cartels and everybody. I remember being on a panel with the then editor of the New York Times who said, it's really hard to break through these days. This is the editor of the New York Times saying it's hard to break through. I wanted to jump off the platform. Like, what's it like for the rest of everybody? So, there are cartels, but cartels don't have hegemony like they used to.
Literal globalist propagandists. Yeah, I'm failing to see where the Global Engagement Center fits in with the Trump mandate. But of course, Speaker Johnson doesn't want you asking these questions, which is why he's teaming up with Democrats in an effort to force this bill through, I'd say by blackmail threat. The threat, of course, being the threat of government shutdowns. But anyways, just getting back into some of the ridiculous spending points on this bill, it also pushes forward a huge congressional salary increase from $178,000 a year to now $240,000. In other words, they're voting for a pay increase, and they're again doing it by threat of blackmail. Do it or we're going to shut down your government. It's funny, huh? How these people pretend as if they're out there for your interest, fighting for the American people, the regular American people. Yeah, they're fighting so hard for you. They care so much. They care so much about your standard of living that they decided to essentially double government spending, creating a horrible, crippling inflation crisis. But I guess who cares? Who cares about inflation that regular Americans are suffering through? Why would the politicians care when they can simply vote on giving themselves a huge pay increase that far outpaces inflation? Unbelievable. It's just blatant corruption. Speaker Johnson played you. He said he wasn't going to do it, and then he did it. And what makes this the absolute worst betrayal, considering again the mandate, is the legal shield that they snuck into this pork spending bill monstrosity. Section 605, which grants House offices the power to block legal requests that might expose their wrongdoing. In other words, an avoid accountability monopoly card. Think about the timing. We've got the January 6th committee who have been accused of deleting records, and now we have a bill that essentially hands the House a tool that would slam the brakes on any subpoenas coming in. It's basically a protective bubble around the the swamp's bad actors, ensuring they'll never actually face scrutiny, ensuring the truth about January 6th and Nancy Pelosi's commission never sees the light of day. This is blatant, in-your-face corruption. So please don't let Johnson's "aw shucks, well, we had no choice" routine fool you. He had plenty of choices. Cut spending, respect the mandate, stand up for what the voters demanded, but instead, he's joining Democrats and betraying the very people who put him in his position of power. This is a brazen, deep state attempt to keep the money flowing, to keep the perks coming, and of course, most importantly, to keep the truth safely hidden away from the public eye. Speaker Johnson today essentially proved that he is no different than any other phony Republican. He is not MAGA, he's not a reformer, he's just another cog in the DC machine, running the same old plays and hoping you're too dumb or distracted to notice. You know, we were hoping that he was going to be better than Kevin McCarthy, but even with a strong Republican mandate totally changing the dynamic going in, he proves himself to be an absolute weakling. Anyways, I think that pretty much sums it up. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.